What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Dive Podcast. And
What up? What up?
it's episode 2. And yeah, we're super, I'm excited. I'm a little bit, okay, I wasn't nervous at first. And then Desi started conveying and portraying her nervousness onto me. And now I'm a little bit nervous, but we out here. We're out here for, I'm joking, guys.
It's all good.
We're out here for episode 2. And first off, before we get into anything we're talking about or about ourselves, we want to say thank you so much to everybody who checked out episode 1.
Yes, thank you.
Literally.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
The response has been crazy.
It really has.
Y'all are great.
People been
for
calling
real.
me, texting me, the comments, DMs.
Yeah.
Appreciate it all.
Yeah.
I was expecting that it was going to be, of course, we already have our expectations set that this is going to be something huge, but literally, I don't know, it was just it was overwhelming, the response that we got to it, and all the people commenting on YouTube, all the people texting and calling and everything. It was just amazing. So we want to ask you to do us a favor, though. If you did watch last episode, can you do us a favor? Like and comment, and then also if you listen on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, there's a way that you can leave a review of the podcast, which helps us to reach more people. It will show up on more people's feeds when you leave us a good review. So leave us a review. Let us know what you thought about what happened, what we talked about, how the episodes have been a blessing to you so that it can impact other people. We're all about Jesus, faith, and life over here. And that was a crazy conversation the first time.
Yeah,
It was.
unexpectedly.
It was good. I got a lot of good feedback from it. Just, a lot of people told me they just, just really related to it. Felt like we were talking directly to them. So, I felt like it was, I guess, just a right on time, word or conversation. And it's
Okay, Holy Spirit move.
encouraging,
literally.
so.
Yeah.
Yeah, the crazy thing is, and that's kind of how the dynamic of our relationship and how our conversations go, is it kind of just happens. And we were not planning on talking about circles or anything like that.
Yeah.
We were really just planning on introducing ourselves. That literally was the entire plan of the episode.
Literally.
And the Holy Spirit just took us to talk about circles and stuff. And so evidently it was a blessing to you guys. So we're excited. We're excited for what God's going to release. When I tell you, we've had meetings, we've had conversations behind the scenes, and we're excited with a lot of the stuff to share. If you don't know, you can connect with the podcast by leaving your questions or topics of what you want us to talk about. They'll help us guide our episodes. And so you guys brought the heat. You guys brought the heat. Literally, we got so many topics, so many questions, and we're excited to dive into some of those. But before we get into anything today, I just wanted to give an opportunity for us to talk about what's going on in our lives. What's happening? What's happening, Jayce? What's going on in your world, man?
Man, a lot, really. A lot. Just work on the grind, trying to, balance everything. But, at the end of the day, I'm grateful for everything that's going on. Thankful to God, and just looking forward to what's coming about. I'm in the middle of a few different business ventures. And just trying to juggle that and figure out where to focus my attention at the right time is really what I've been focusing on lately, and that's my main main thing I'm dealing with right now, I think. So,
Yeah.
It's
relatable.
Good though, yeah.
I feel you, brother.
Relatable.
Yeah.
How about you, Desi?
I would say the same thing. I'm working full time. I'm trying to operate my business, my brand in ministry to, the most most excellent place. And y'all, why is there only 24 hours in the day?
Literally.
God, why only 24 hours a day? Because I never feel like there's enough time. So I do feel like all of these things God put in my life and he has for me. And so I'm really just trying to be and figure out how to be the best person day to day. And y'all, I ain't gonna lie, it's been a task. It's been a
Yeah.
challenge trying to take care of myself
Yeah.
and take care of the things that I'm called to do,
Yeah.
I'm required to do, I want to do,
Yeah.
I need to do.
Yeah.
Y'all, do you feel me?
Literally. Juggling all of that
Yes.
can be something, but with the grace of God.
Hallelujah.
With the grace of God.
Yeah. And,
With the help of
it's-
God.
It's crazy. Like,
Literally.
at Cry Nights, that was me and you, we were in the car and we were, I was talking about,
Yeah.
juggling everything and just trying to
Mhm.
find that balance, and, for one, get y'all some praying friends, y'all, because I was telling
Absolutely.
King everything, and you
Yes.
know what, he was just like, man, all right, well, we about to pray, and we prayed about it, and then later on that night, we went to Cry Nights, and if you haven't been to Cry Nights, you missing out.
Plug.
So you know what I'm saying? A little slight plug.
Yeah.
Literally.
But the a revelation that I got, it was something that Jonathan said. And I can't remember exactly what he said in the moment, but it was basically like, you know, God has given you everything that you need for everything that you're doing. Basically, is what
Yeah.
what I took from it. But the key to it was prayer, my prayer
Yeah.
life. Like I just gotta go
Yes.
deeper. I gotta go harder in my prayer life, and in that
Yeah.
is where I'm gonna find the solution to that balance that I'm looking
Yeah.
for and that juggling that I'm trying to figure out. So yeah, so it's
Absolutely. And I can speak to, us three here because a lot of us are doing things that, God has called us to. And in this day, presently, I'm realizing like if God called you to it,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
you need God.
No, absolutely.
I
Literally.
need God. And, God knows you need to work. So you
Mhm.
think he's calling you to do something that, is going to affect your. He knows you need
Yeah.
to work in this moment. He knows you got to take care of them kids or whatever it may be, but he still called you to it. And
Yeah.
that should cause you to rely on him. And that's what I'm realizing right now because sometimes you can be so need focused
Yeah.
that your calling can feel like a distraction to your needs
Yeah.
where really
Mhm.
it should be the other way around. And that's what I'm learning right now is like, God, I just need you for everything
Yeah.
because
Ooh, that's good.
I'm my plate.
Wow.
Here, you take it.
Yeah. I think also like finding that because for me, I'm kind of in the same boat as
Yeah.
far as Jason and Desi. My tasks and the things that I do are different, and maybe my
Yeah.
hours are different, but kind of in that boat of I have a lot of things on my plate, a lot of areas where
Yeah.
I'm leading, where I'm teaching, where I'm working, and all those things all at one time. It's like finding that healthy medium
Yeah.
because I know like God called me to these things. I know these are
Yeah.
things that God has
Right.
my hands in for a
Yeah.
reason. And it might not always be forever
Yeah.
in that aspect,
Yeah.
especially in the capacity that it is I'm doing it in, but there's something that I need here.
Yeah.
And so for me, it's been like finding that place of consistency without
Yeah.
overwhelming myself,
Yeah.
because like if I can be consistent with a few things in these areas, okay, for instance, I'm running like 5 Instagram accounts at one time. And so I'm running our church's page, I'm running my own personal page, I'm running the
Yeah.
Diet Podcast page, I'm running my event page, and now I'm running my ministry page all at the same time and posting on all of those pages. And for me, it used to overwhelm the mess out of me.
Yeah.
But then I found like a schedule and a consistency that I could actually keep up with.
Yeah.
It wasn't unrealistic because I think how I started and how it ended up burning me out was
Yeah.
it was so unrealistic
Yeah.
that I couldn't like actually keep up with it. And God's telling me to
Yeah.
post and stuff, but He's not wanting it to be like make it so unrealistic that I can't actually keep it up because God wants me to be consistent with what He's given me.
Yeah. Yeah.
So finding that place has
Yeah.
been kind of my
Yeah.
lesson in this season right now.
That's such a good word. Especially when I think about myself, because sometimes I have such unrealistic standards.
Yeah.
And it's not that they're unrealistic, but my practices don't match what's needing to be done, you know? And it's like, I'm expecting myself to do all of these things, and I want to do all of these things. I need to post every day, but it's not realistic for me to do that. I'm working 8 to 5, or it seems like it's not realistic for me to do it because I'm working 8 to 5. But when I get off at 5, you know, I want to cook dinner, I want to do this, and I want to do that. But it's like, okay, but God's requiring me to do this.
Yeah.
And even if I just did one thing, it would be better if I did nothing, because I feel like I have to do so much.
Right.
And so it would feel unrealistic to me because of that.
Right.
You know, it's like, oh, I don't have the time, or I can't finish this in the capacity
Right.
that I want to finish it in.
Yeah.
And that's where I feel like it would be unrealistic for me, because it's like, you want to finish this today. That's not real. But what if you started it today?
Right.
Yeah.
What if you worked an hour
Literally.
today? Like, make it realistic. But I wasn't moving forward in the things that I need to do in a realistic manner, and it always felt unrealistic. I can't do that. I can't finish this today. I can't finish this by Friday. I can't. It's too much. I still want to do this, and this. And it's just like, but you need to do it.
Right.
And so instead of me finding realistic ways to finish and accomplish what I want to accomplish and getting ahead of it, you know, it's like by the time I'm trying to set up realistic measures, I'm behind. You know, now I'm staying up late, and I'm angry. I'm angry at the duty. I'm angry at the job. I'm angry at the position. I'm angry at myself. I'm tired now, and now I'm tired, and I'm working late to finish this project that, you know, your mind start playing tricks on you, because I'm not getting paid for this.
Yeah, literally.
I'm not getting paid for this. It's not important. It's not speaking to me. But really, I probably could have found joy in it if I just spent an hour enjoying it.
Absolutely.
Not necessarily finishing it. Like, before, I'd be like, I'm going to work on it in an hour. But my expectation was, I'm going to finish in an hour.
Absolutely.
That's unrealistic.
Yeah.
I'm not going to finish in an hour, but I could work on it for an hour.
Yeah.
And that would set myself up to be successful and to see the things that God is expecting me and calling me to do without overwhelming me and feeling like I'm not capable. You know, I think that's a lie. That is a lie. I'm not capable. You're not capable because you're trying to do it your way.
Right.
You've set an expectation on how you should do it, where all I'm asking you is to give me your time.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think even like in that aspect, like how much inspiration kind of pushes us to do things.
Oh.
And so we can be so concerned with taking the big step rather than if we took the little step, we would be inspired to do the next little step. And so keep walking in those things. And the reason that we lack inspiration is because we're always looking at taking the huge step rather than just take that small step. Because now I've taken that small step and now I'm like, okay, that felt good. Or I started something. I want to keep going at it. And so now I'm in that flow of a bunch of little stuff.
I feel like a lot of that comes from, in my opinion, you know, like social media and stuff, and seeing other people's progress or other people's success or or level at wherever they are at what they're doing, and it may be relatable to something that we want to do or something we saw ourselves doing or a plan that we have. And so we're trying to hurry up and get where they are or match where they are. But it's like, the truth is, we don't know how many small steps they took to get there. You know, we just see where they are, and it may seem like they were here and all of a sudden they're here, but you know, the truth is, you really don't know what happened behind those scenes, and you know, and so I just think, you know, that really is the key. You know, taking those small steps. You know, 10 small steps will equal one huge step.
Literally.
Or
you're gonna get there,
and you'll get there.
The goal is met. I think sometimes too, it's addictive to take that big step and something happens. And you can almost chase that. You know, because you get used to taking that big leap and landing. But really, like, you know, you do that 10 times, you're going to fall eventually, you know, because of the exertion, the effort that it requires to take that big step. And so sometimes we get so used to that, like, ooh, it happened on my first try. But the moment it doesn't, it defeats you. You know, because you're not used to that. You know, you're used to landing it, you're used to sticking it, and then you done made it this far sticking and landing it, that now that you really need to take some steps, you don't even know how to do that.
Yeah.
You know, where it's like, if you get used to like, yeah, I could finish this in one big leap, but let me just baby step this out, because there's going to be a project, there's going to be a time, there's going to be a situation where I just can't do it. And it's like, for me, it's not in reality in life. Like some of us, our projects are one of the many things that we're doing. So it's like, yeah, it would be great if I had all day, then yeah, I could stick and land this, but I'm trying to fit this in all of the things that I'm called to do. And so, you know, learning to manage that is just a healthy habit and practice to get used to. And it's something that I'm honestly working on, because it's, even when I think about myself into school, I didn't do homework. I didn't do, you know, I just went to school and did my tests and, you know, did my homework. Like, what was that? Like, it was easy. College came. I didn't know how to study. I didn't know how to write papers. I didn't know how to do anything, because I didn't have any practice. I didn't have any discipline. I didn't have any habits of those things, because I never had to. And now I'm put in a position where I have to do this for all of my classes, because there's nobody holding my hand. They're like, here's your book. Here's a lecture. Take some notes. Test is on Tuesday. I might give you a study guide. It might be random. You can't, you know, here's a syllabus. Follow the syllabus. I gave you a syllabus, and you're like, what?
Right.
And so it was a whole new experience for me. But the people who thrived are people who had those practices and habits, you know, whether they need to or not. Like, you know.
Yeah, I had the same experience with that. Yeah, that's the truth. I was going to say, picking up off what you were saying before that, you don't want to stretch yourself so thin that if anything new pops into the picture, like, it can make everything crumble, you know, because you're stretched so thin, because it's like, you
how
know.
often does that happen?
Right, exactly. You know, and that's how you find yourself in that position where you're not taking any steps anymore, because now one wrench got thrown in your plans because you didn't give yourself any room for error or any space for the what if, you know. It's just like, so, you know, you gotta be careful with that.
I think even in like that comparison, that cursive comparison, like era and stage that we're in, where we're like social media and we're looking at everybody's successes, we're looking at the finished product of everything. And like a lot of times I point it back to with Jesus and talking about the stewards. Faithful with the little, I'll make you ruler over the much. And so like, I just think of it like, if you keep taking the little steps, then there's a point where you progress, where you're able to take bigger steps. And you keep taking those slightly bigger steps, and then there's a point where you reach where, okay, now I'm able to take a little bit larger steps. Even in life,
run
like
faster.
And run faster. And like, even in life, we look at it as people get more successful. It's not necessarily they have more time or anything like that, but they're able to do things when they want to. They're able to move things when they want to. They're able to pursue hobbies or things they want to do because they were consistent with the things that they had on their plate when they were starting in that journey. We see you as a billionaire. We see you as Jeff Bezos or Steve Jobs or blah, 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 whenever you got to that point where your company blew up. But we didn't see the little and grind and all those things that it took to get you to that point, and the conversations that you had to have and the long nights and all of those things. Like, we don't see that part.
Right. And not only that, but the part that we do see of it, we see them still taking steps.
Right.
And they seem big to us, but now they're small steps all over again for them. But it's just they're at such a new level and a new part to where it's like, so it looks like it's a big step. But for them, at the level they are, it's just small steps all over again to the next big thing, you know? So.
Yeah, like, get okay with the small steps, because no matter what height you, that makes me think about life. Like, until we're dead and gone, like, we still have something that we need to do. So you might as well get used to the little steps, because when you reach the pinnacle, God says, I got more. You know, when you reach the heights of where you thought God was going to take you, God is like, but I got more. You thought, right? And so if you get used to taking those small steps, you won't get used to being in a place of like power, position. And this is what it has to look like. You'll get used to the positions like, God, where you want me to go? What you want me to do?
Yeah.
And that kind of brings me to that question, like, does it matter whose plans you're on?
Yeah.
Like, does it make things easier if I'm on God's plan or my plans? Like, you know, I think that a lot of times we're overwhelmed and we are frustrated and we're not seeing, especially if like you're people like us or, you know, even your own, like if you felt in your heart, like, God, you told me this was going to be the life that I have. And you've been chasing it a certain kind of way. You got to ask yourself, like, am I on God's plans or am I on my plans? Am I doing what God asked me to do, or am I chasing the idea of what God has for me? Because even if God hasn't spoken to you a certain word, but you're reading the Bible and you see God says, I called you prosperous, or I have plans for your life. They're good, not evil. Like, you might chase every day, like, that it has to be just so perfect, right? Where that may not necessarily be the case, but you can say today's going to be a good day.
Right.
Don't mean that something might not come against you, but you can literally speak to that thing and say, I don't believe this.
Right.
I'm not going to accept this. God has good plans for me this day. But if you chase like every day has to be a good day, nothing's bad's going to happen. When bad things happen, you're going to be defeated. You're going to feel some type of way because you're chasing what God has said, not what God has said. You're chasing like your idea of what God has said.
Right.
As opposed, like, for instance, like, I believe that God has called me to a certain level in life. I'm not going to say what, but I believe that God's called me to a certain level in life. My life does not look like that right now. And if I get up every day and say, why don't my life look like, or if I'm like, you know what, in order for my life to look like this, I need to do this. But I did not consult with God.
Yeah.
I didn't ask God. I took a job that God had because it said, I'm going to make this figure amount of money. And it looks like, and it sounds like what God has for me, but I didn't consult with God, you know?
Yeah.
And so now I'm taking the promises of God, I'm taking the things that God has for my life, and I'm putting my own plans on it. And so now I'm chasing and I'm down this path, and I'm like, every day I'm on this path, and I'm like, why am I so tired? Why am I so frustrated? Why do I feel like everyone, like, you know, you can go through a lot of emotions, and I say this for myself because I was on a path, you know, let's go back to college. From a young girl, I believe that God had a great life for me. And I did not come from that. I was not a product of that, you know, product of struggle. But I knew like something about me, like God had a great. And so I thought that meant that I had to be a doctor. I had to be something of status, right?
Yeah.
So I went through school. I was smart in school, but I didn't know study. I didn't know that. I just knew make good grades, do, you know, what you need to do. Then I went to school. I went to college. I went off to college because I thought that was the look, right? I thought this was what I was supposed to do. I thought that that's what God had for me. I'm not even gonna say that's what I thought God had for me because I did not ask God. I didn't think about God. I just thought this looked good. It looked good for me on paper to say she went to this school. She majored in this thing.
Yeah.
No plans, no ideas. All I know is this type of job could give me this kind of life. Y'all, I was depressed.
Yeah.
I was sad. I was lost. I had no idea how I fit in this. Like, I was unmotivated. I was doing this because this is what I thought I had to do.
Right.
And I left that. When I left that, that's when I began to discover who I was. And then I somehow got it. I went to school for business. I don't even know how I ended up. I went to school for business, and I took like one semester, and it blew my mind. Like, I was like, I love this. And even still, I didn't finish school in that, but it put something in me. And now I'm an entrepreneur today. But how I became an entrepreneur, I was working and God told me to leave my job. And I left my job. And I ended up in a internship that paid that I had no history, nothing in. And it sparked another desire. And I had a vision of my business. This brand that you guys see, I had a vision of it. 2016, 2018, I leave my job. And I didn't know how I was going to do this business. I didn't know how it was going to happen. I didn't know how it was going to come about. But somehow God told me to leave my job, the job that paid me well. Like, I worked in sales, I made commission. And, you know, when you work in sales and you make commission, you get almost like, I don't want to say a a God complex, but you like, man, I know how to make my money. You start realizing like I can make this happen for me. You want to be the top sales, like you really start getting that idea. And I had this about myself. I was really good at it. And but again, I was miserable. And in God, I'm in church now and I'm in Bible school and I'm learning how to seek God. And God told me to leave my job. Y'all, I ain't never had anxiety or panic attack. I had my first panic attack during that time. And so I leave my job and I'm like, okay, what do you want me to do? I'm not thinking about this business.
Yeah.
I'm not thinking about my vision of this business. I'm not thinking, I don't even know how to, I drew a shirt on no skill, no nothing. How did I end up in this internship? And here I am years later, and I'm still doing this, and my business is growing, and I'm learning more. But it took time for me to discover what God had for me, to process what God had for me, because a lot of times what God is calling us to do, you might not necessarily be ready for.
Right.
And so you might have to go through some processing for you to do that. And then there might be some other instances where you are. And how do you respond to that?
Yeah.
Jason?
I think just like playing off the experience.
Yeah.
Like God puts you through, like so God will allow you to go through certain experiences because it's going to build something in you.
Yeah.
I think about David, right? And his call to be king. He gets called to be king in a position where he was overlooked, where he was just serving, he was just living life. And everybody else was looked, and he got called to be king. But then there's this moment where because we always look at Bible stories by the ending, and we don't realize the process that it took to get there. But there's the situation with Goliath, but David's first battle wasn't with Goliath. He always tapped into what he went through with the lion and the bear. He had to go through two different battles against lesser small things to be able to go against that. But also even the position of him getting to that position of fighting Goliath or whatever. It wasn't something that he forced himself into or that he tried to get into. He's just doing what he's supposed to do, and his dad tells him to go bring his brother some lunch. So that literally goes back to like literally, I'm not forcing myself into things. I'm literally just doing what I'm supposed to be doing, where I'm supposed to be at, and as I'm doing that, then. The Lord is opening opportunities. Now I'm in the opportunity, and now I have to respond while I'm here.
That's good.
But I didn't force myself here. And so I think playing off of those, remembering that sometimes we have to go through the smaller battles or lesser battles in our mind and things, before we can get there, but also realizing that God called me to this. Literally, this is a position that I'm anointed for. I don't have to force myself into there. I just have to be confident when I get there. Because literally, those little steps, what they do is they produce confidence and humility. Literally, it's confidence and humility in us. We're honestly at that place where I'm humble because I'm relying on God, but then I'm also confident when the bigger battles are here now because He's walked with me through certain things in my life.
Yeah, that is so good.
That's good. That's good. Like the scripture says, when you delight yourself in the Lord, He will give you the desires of your heart. And it's I like to call that a double-edged sword. Because He'll give you the desires of your heart, literally, because you're delighting yourself in Him. As you get closer to Him, your heart will start to change. Your visions will start to change. The things you desire begin to change, and your plans begin to change, and it starts to change to what He created you for, what what He already has for you, what He already planned for you. So as your heart desires begin to change, then those things become tangible in your life because you as you're going through that walk, and you may have to go through you're gonna have to go through some of those experiences. To get it, just like you said a minute ago, where when you're faithful in little, you can be faithful in much. And so if he would have got to Goliath without ever having to fight the lion or the bear.
Right.
He would have never fought
Yeah.
Goliath.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
why would he?
Wow,
Right.
that's so good. And when I think about that, like literally all of this, for one, bringing it back to little steps in our daily lives, like it's almost like God with us, like He's taking little stuff, like let me process you because I'm trying to take you to these bigger places. Like
Right.
I can't take you from here to here,
Literally.
because if I take you, who's right here, from here, you might not land it. You might fall. You
Gonna blow
might
it.
fail. You're gonna blow it. So I gotta.
Yeah.
Day by day with you,
Yeah,
so I
absolutely.
get you. And I love that because now myself right now, I can like look at my day-to-day habits and routines and like feel better about them, because like God is doing this with my life. Who do I think that I am, that I can't, be wiser and be mindful, be more intentional about having habits and routine that's going to help me to get to the places that God has for me every day. Like, why would I not do that when God is preparing me? He's building me up and He's putting me in position to get to these places. Like, if God is doing that with me, why wouldn't I do that with my days, the things that I have? Like, wow, that was so good. And then when you said David, the thing about David that just blessed me when you said that is that a lot of times he was serving. He was a shepherd. He was doing his duty. He was doing his job. As a matter of fact, wasn't he like teased because he's like a shepherd boy? He's dancing and they in the army like, this guy, and so, and so he's literally doing his part. And sometimes it's like your part doesn't look like everyone else's part, but you have to do your part. And a lot of times we think our assignment is like this great task. It's like the army, they knew we fighting against Goliath. David was not going there for that, but he was the one who defeated Goliath. Like, I'm going here simply for, to deliver lunch to my brothers. And I am walking in my position. I'm walking in my place. I've done what my, he was praising where he was dancing for God. He been like in that place of praise and worship. And, like that's just who he was. Yeah. And I'm just like, dang, he's being his authentic self. He's doing what was required of him. He's not trying to be like, I'm better than you, or I can do this. Even when he took over, he was more offended about what was being said.
Right.
Like, wait, y'all hear this? I need to do something. Like, when you are walking in what God has created you for and you're doing your duty, even though some people's position might look like it's greater than yours, when the opportunity shows up, wow, like David was crowned king and he was already anointed for that. But because of that, that's what made it real. The things that God has promised you become real when you're simply walking out who you are.
Right.
God has anointed you. He has called you. He has promised you. He has planned for you. And all he's asking you is to walk out who I have called you to be. And when the opportunity shows up, you're going to show up prepared. David wasn't unprepared, like Jay said.
and not only that, but nobody's gonna question it. Because you're being yourself, and people are gonna know why, because they're gonna remember who you were, what you did, how you acted, and they're gonna, that's gonna be the fruit of that. Where you end up, and your level of success or whatever it is. People aren't gonna question why does that happen to him or her or whatever. Because you're true to yourself. You're not ashamed. You know what I mean? And so
I wasn't even in this position. Like, I just came here to bring y'all some
I was
lunch.
just bringing some lunch, literally.
But because he was, because he danced, because he praised, because
he fought.
When he was king, nobody's gonna, I'm sure there's always a haters out there. Some people are gonna question it. Some people are not gonna like it. But the people who really see and understand. They're gonna know why, and they're gonna see you. So,
and you can't even worry about that. Like, had David worried about that, like, would he have performed? Like, and I think about even Hayden, like, they're like trying to give him like the armor and trying to give them their sword, and he's like, I can't even fit this. This isn't for me. I don't know how to use this. Like, I'm going to lose this battle if I try to fight like you. That's for you. I'm going to walk in who I am, and I'm going to succeed in who I am. And then it's like, I don't even think it was about winning, like, for David. Like, it literally was like, he's coming against God.
Right.
You know, this, and we're talking about people, but like how many things in your life, in the places that God has promised you, and there's something trying to come against what God has said or who God is. Like, how do you avenge that with who you are? You know, like I just think that speaks to just being in your calling. I feel like we all have plans and we all have things, but when you chase after who God has called you to be, and you're doing what God has asked you to do, when you end up in these situations and opportunities, like I think about myself, how many places and opportunities that I have encountered that I've failed because of the lack of intention that I was in when it came to being who God called me to be. Like, even when it came to being a graphic designer or those things. And again, I'll tell you a big one. We're talking about social media. I see graphic designers all the time in spam. And sometimes, like, walking in that, I feel like spam. And it's like, I don't announce myself. I don't tell myself. I don't feel like I'm that, you know, like, I don't feel like I'm the best, or I think I'm just so great. I just really just feel like this is something that God gave to me. He told me to do. I almost like David, like I walked into this. Like,
Literally.
I literally was in business. God told me to leave my job. I literally walked into this. There was a person asking for a person of color. Do you want to learn everything I know about graphic design and media and all this stuff? And then even having Kemen, who is, guys, now, if y'all want to know somebody who code with it, to have him and to be connected to him as I'm in, like, it's like God put me in this position, and it's just like I have to chase that. And I'm speaking to myself because I want to give up my graphic business. I want to give up this clothing brand because it's like, I don't feel like I fit into it. But God is like, I've given it to you. Just walk it out. You know, I don't feel like I'm equipped for it. God is like, I've given you the slingshot. You've done this before. You've had clients that came out of nowhere and they were pleased. Like, what? Like, I'm literally in this situation right now where it's like, I don't want to do this anymore.
Right.
I don't feel successful. Or it's hard. But I'll be honest, I'm distracted.
Yeah.
I'm distracted by what I need. I'm distracted by what my life looks like right now. And so it's like, for me, this is like a reeling back up to, what have I showed you? What have I told you? What have I promised you? What have I given you? I've given you things that you didn't even ask for. And I've equipped you with materials that nobody else even has. Like, when I think about it, people go to school for this. And for me to walk into an internship that paid me in a time where I need finances, y'all can't tell me that's God. God is like, girl, if you don't get up, if you don't invest your time, if you don't chase after what I put in you, I am going to miss that opportunity.
Yeah.
And that's speaking to me so loud right now.
I'm thinking about really like two things. I'll say both of them. One, David, after this happens, of course, being with Saul and stuff, and like Saul trying to kill him and all those things, and then him having to be in that place of exile. It's like, I didn't ask for this.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't ask for this. I was just tending to my sheep, and you called me, and now I'm running for my life. I'm being chased, and I feel like it's so much pressure on me.
Wow.
I'm leading these people, or I'm doing these things, and it's so much going on. Like, why can't I just live? Why can't I just be,
God,
okay, why do I have to keep running and keep going to these places? And it's a lot of pressure. But the Lord's like, look, I called you to this place because there are people I have assigned for you. There's a place that I want to take my kingdom because of through you. And so I've called you to walk this out. And so be strong. And now I always also think about Elijah. Elijah, declares his famine on the land, and Ahab and Jezebel's like, we're going to kill you. And there's this moment on the mountain where he's against these prophets, and he kills the prophets and shows forth the power of God and all that stuff. But then literally the very next scene we see Elijah is he's like tired, exhausted, and the Lord feeds him, but then he runs into this cave and he's like, God, I done all these things for you, but it's a lot right now, and I don't know if this is where I'm supposed to. I don't know what's going on, but I don't want to keep going. I'm tired of it. And the Lord's literally like, He shows him all these things, but like it says that the Lord wasn't in those things, and then He speaks in this whisper, and it's like, Elijah, what are you doing here?
Yeah.
Like literally in a whisper, Elijah, what are you doing here? And it's like, I've brought you through this. I've kept you through this. I know it's a lot of pressure. I know you come against a lot of things. I know it's been hard, but what are you doing here?
Wow.
I am with you. And the very next scene we see Elijah with after this is he's going to anoint Elisha because there's a people who need you. There's a people who you're called to for the next. And so if Elijah had died in that cave, then he would have never passed on that mantle and that double portion to Elisha. God wanted to do more.
Wow.
And so keep going. We just gotta, keep taking the steps. Keep going.
You said God said something. The Lord wasn't in those things.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow. So that means we can be doing things in our calling, in our walk that God is not in.
Yeah.
Wow.
Distractions, literally distractions. Because I think it said a big gush of wind went, and it says the Lord wasn't in there, and the mountain shook and all that stuff, and the Lord wasn't in there. And then something else happened. I don't remember the specific, but sometimes the Lord wasn't in here. There, and then the Lord spoke in the whisper, and things can be so distracting in our environments.
Yeah.
And our world can be literally shooken. The winds can be beating around us and all those things, and we can get caught in that and think the Lord was there, even though I'm here. But then the Lord speaks in that
because it's such a what I see from that is like, those are great things, mighty things, powerful things, and because we see something like that, we'll think, oh yeah, it must be God, or or that's got to be what what's for me, because it's this big thing. But no, God comes in a soft, subtle way, like like
take the next step.
Like,
literally, that's what He
with
says.
Chill out.
Wow.
Calm down.
Calm down.
Not only that,
Rest.
Refocus.
Within
that was my
me,
key.
refocus.
Yeah,
I got you.
Wow.
Yeah, that's good.
That is really good because how many times have distractions been things that like literally they were attractive to us and they looked like God, because our identity of God is so mighty, is so big. It shakes up our core. Sometimes you get in the presence of God, you're like, ooh, and so you get an opportunity. And I've learned, now this is a lesson I learned, because so many great opportunities have come my way, and to just pray, because it's like, just because it's great, just because it sounds good, just because it looks good, just because it even has identifiers of what God can be or is, does not mean that it's God. And so to seek out God, do you want me to do this right now? Or is this pleasing to you if I do this right now? Is this what you're asking of me if I do this right now? Like, I know that this is something that I would like to do, but then that brings me back into what Jay says, delight in the Lord, and He'll give you the desires of your heart. You'll find yourself doing that very same thing that is benefiting to God, that allows God to be glorified, allows God to show up. And here you are operating in that same capacity that you wanted to do anyway, in that last place, in that last position, in that last thing. And God would have never been in it. But yet the mountain shook and the wind blew and it was a roar, and it's like
I think too, in that story, what God reveals about Himself is Him as a sustainer. Like all throughout Elijah's journey, from him declaring the famine and being fed in the ravine, and him going to the widow, and him being on that mountain, and then after that getting fed, like God is literally showing you, like, hey, look, it's okay to rest in me. I will sustain you. I will feed you. And so in those moments, it can feel like, we can be so like caught up in where we are, or what's happened, or the environment, that we don't realize that, like, there's literally food right there. Like there's sustenance for me.
This is so interesting because it brings me to a question that actually one of our viewers asked is like, I think it was like, is it more important to do what God is asking us? Or if we're doing what God is asking of us, can we do
Something else.
something else? And it's just like, why? Like, what would you say to that? After this conversation, like, what would you say to that?
Man, I would say
Feel free to ask
you
Jayce,
want
yeah.
you want to tag first.
So I think, well,
He rubbed his beard like he had something to say.
well, not because I was thinking like I think the way they worded it was like, if God gives me one thing to do, is it okay for me? Should I focus on just that one thing, or or until that thing is until it's complete? Is that what it was? Right?
Yeah.
Like until
when God tells me to do something, should I focus on that one thing until that task is complete, or do I still work on other ideas also?
Yeah. And I mean, I think it kind of just speaks to, pretty much everything that we've been talking about today. But I think that, for one, you got to kind of like, okay, I'll just speak about myself. Like what I said earlier is just, you got to go deeper in that prayer life and find that balance, because there's some things, like you just said, there's some things that you're going to want to do, that you're going to desire. And it may be because God has shown you that that's what you're going to do, but you got to have patience in it sometimes. Sometimes you may see something and that's what you want to do, but you may not actually get to do that thing for 5 years because there's some other things that you have to accomplish or that you have to go through before you could actually do that to where it's impactful in the way that God has intended for it to be. Kind of like when you were talking about, the message you gave, where's the heart, right? You said, God gave you that word a while ago, but it wasn't time for you to preach it, because it wasn't meant for that moment. It wasn't, it wasn't going to have the impact. You didn't have the platform at that time when you got it that you have at the time when you preached it, and I think that's, how you got to do it. But again, that comes with, your prayer life and getting closer to God and just continually just walking things through.
That's good.
The Bible says, I think it's in Proverbs, that the heart of a man, the man's heart makes his plans, but God will order your steps.
Right.
So, I mean, you can have these plans, but God is gonna, he's in control at the end of the day, and especially if you allow him to be, So that's my answer to that question. Do those things, stay focused on it, but now. But I will say this: in doing that one thing, let's say, like I said, let's say it is 5 years down the line when that thing is going to be completed. Those other things that you're doing in between, you need to make sure that those things are lined up with God as well, or even maybe even in line with that one thing that you're going for. You don't want to be double-minded on two separate ends.
Right.
So.
Wow.
I think, I mean, I definitely agree. One of the things I'd say is defining and kind of like Jayce was saying, prayer. Like literally like discerning and talking with God on when that's supposed to be done. And realizing if he spoke something to you, because even though the Lord spoke that word to me 3 years ago, I couldn't just rest on my laurels with it. I had to study. I had to understand, get context behind it, all of those things. And like, as that was happening, then the Lord was preparing me to minister it. The Lord put like some names on my heart when that question like came to us. And one of the names he put to my heart was Noah. And like, this is part of defining what the word is, and like when he wants you to be doing it and moving in it. Because if Noah had delayed, then he would not have built that ark in time for the flood to happen. He had to be obedient with that word immediately when the Lord spoke to him. Now, the task wasn't completed overnight. It wasn't something that in one day.
Yeah.
They was done with and the flood happened.
Yeah.
It was like I kept building this arc until it was complete, but I did start on it. I did take steps in it. I did continue to move it because some words that the Lord speaks to us are for a specific like sudden season. Like, and so we have to understand that.
Yeah.
And then some of the other things he talked to me about, I think one of them was Elijah and Elisha, which is so funny we talk about that. Like, some of the words are for your life. Like, literally, they're for you to carry for the rest of your life. And so Elijah had to, like, when Elijah threw that mantle on Elisha, Elisha tried to go back and be like, hey, I need to go tell my family bye and blah, blah, blah. And Elijah's like, what that got to do with me? I'm out of here. So he had to leave everything behind and follow that word and walk in that so that he wouldn't miss the mantled authority put on him. So some words are for your life. Some words are for a specific season. And then the last word that person God brought to me was Paul, was with, he says, I travail with you until Christ be formed in you. So that means that some words are developmental words in the aspect of
That's so good.
he will call you to do something until something is developed in you. He'll call you to labor here until you are mature enough in something, and then you can move on from it. So that's what I'm saying. Identifying, like, what is it that God called you to do? Is it something for a specific season? Is it something for the rest of your life? Or is it something that's just supposed to be worked until something is developed in you?
So identifying, like, is this God? Is this for right now? When is it for? But be active in it. And if you are doing other things, don't let that distract you from what God is asking you to do, is what I'm getting here. And, like, you know, you have to be active. If God told you to complete something, God gave you a word, it's like, okay, am I going to sit? You know what? This word came to me. I woke up, literally, it was in my spirit. It was like, stop waiting for people to do what I've already empowered you to do.
That's good.
And so you're waiting for what God has said to happen or to show up or to look like, ooh, this is what God told me years ago, when God is like, I literally empowered you right now to do what it is that I'm asking for you. Like, why are you looking for identifiers? Why are you looking for signs? Why are you looking for someone to tell you this is what you were supposed to do, when it's you? It's in you. It's for you. I've empowered you. I left you the adequate tools and equipment to do what it is that I'm asking for. What are you still looking for? You know, get to work.
Absolutely.
And it's that for me. Like, you got to be active in it. Like, when I think about faith, I think about Christy. She said, you got to get active. You know, when God has told you to do something, like you said, it's going to be a process thing, but are you active? And believing what God has said will cause you to get active in it, regardless of when it's completed. You know, I'm like, I'm not going to move. Like you said, some things you're like, I'm not going to move from this thing until God is done. Done in me. And you'll know, like, for instance, if God is telling you to, I'll use this example, to write a book. And you ain't picked up a pen and paper in years. God told you to write that book years ago. Like, you didn't even write your name. Like, do you really believe what God has said?
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, you have no idea. Like, you haven't even put any effort. Like, and it's like, because I'm waiting for it. God's like, the story's already in you. Just start writing. It doesn't have to make sense to you right now. Let me pour out of you. You know, let me build it out of you. It doesn't have to be released next month. It doesn't have to be released next year. But let me start pouring in you and pouring out of you. But you got to get active. Like, how can you expect the words to get on paper if you won't even write, if you won't even type? You know, and it's like those things, like, God is trying to do some things and we're trying to figure out how God is trying to do it. And he's like, get active.
Literally. I think one of the things I started doing, I want to say 2021, was like, after I went to this intensive with Black Voices and of course got touched by Jesus. Never been the same. We'll talk about that at some point probably in this podcast. But one of the things, like, the Lord started pouring into me was songs and music and stuff like that. I'm not a musician. I don't know anything about all of that. But best believe I took my pen and paper and I started writing the lyrics that the Lord gave me. And I took a guitar and just started strumming stuff and recording stuff. And sure, it's not all put together, but it's something. And now I'm able to take this and bring it to my team. Take it and bring it to the people,
Yes.
and we can work from this. And so now we've developed like 2 full songs already, but we have stuff that we were working on. And so because I was obedient with that, it gave a starting space for where it's going to go. And so I couldn't imagine all the things that need to be added to it. But if I never wrote it down, then that would have been lost.
That just brings you back to what Paul said. I'm going to travail with you until something is developed. It's like I'm going to work this thing until it's developed. And it's like it was brought to you, but you have like people around you to this thing. What if you didn't write it?
Yeah.
What if you didn't remember it? What if you didn't get a melody together? Like, this is a word that's literally going to change and bless someone's life, and it never got developed.
Yeah.
Like, I can't leave this song and go to a next song because this song never got developed. Like, what if you didn't do that? Like, what if you didn't rest it? And what if you would have been like, you are crazy. I don't sing. Did you heard me? Like, I be singing in the shower, Lord. Like, what if you met God with your understanding of who you are, and God is like, look, I'm just dropping in you the word, the sounds, the look. Just develop it. Just walk it out. Just stay with it until it becomes what I have planned for it. You know.
So good.
Yeah, that's good. That's really good.
Yeah,
that's really good.
Well,
I mean, what you was about to say?
No, you go ahead, bro.
I was just gonna say, I don't know. I was just thinking, just like for me personally, like I consider myself a businessman.
Yeah.
I see myself having, businesses, and one thing that God has been working with me on, I would say developing and travailing with me, and I'm like, it's kind of just clicking right now, pouring in. But like, I struggle with delegating tasks, because and Desi, she's my wife, so of course she can, she knows, like, but I'm the kind of person that's like, I would try to do everything.
Yeah.
Like, I can do it, I do it, and and sometimes, like, obviously I can't get it all done, like, and you gotta, just so much that there's, it can't all be done by one person. You gotta delegate it, and right now, in the type of work I'm doing, where I'm, doing this remodel and construction, I literally can't do everything by myself, and I've been placed in this space of leadership to delegate the task, to tell people, hey, this is what's next, this is what I need you to do, this, and then not only that, but, writing out a list of things, because that's another thing that I struggled with was, writing down, making a list of things that I need to do, just so I can be on track with what needs to be done, because if I never write it down, then it's all in my head and I'll forget something, never completing the whole task.
Yeah.
And so that's just something that I can just see, developing in me for the future of the businesses that God has promised me, that he has shown me, but it's like, why would he give me those things if I'm not going to successfully be able to run them? If I don't know how to tell somebody what to do and what needs to be done at what time and what timely manner, so I just thought that that's an example, that I'm experiencing right now of just something developing, so that's just something I feel like, is practical.
To pass down a mantle.
Yeah,
it has to be developing to you to pass it on, to be in leadership. Like, we just got our leadership meeting.
Yeah.
You can't be a leader and expect leadership out of other people without being a leader yourself, without doing the necessary things, and then you're expecting people to do it as well. So it's like, to see it develop in you. Sometimes God is developing things in you, not necessarily for you, but for what's to come after you.
Yeah.
Like, we talk about Elijah and Elijah, he got the double portion. There was more that he had to do, but he wouldn't even have been able to do the more. How would you know to ask for more if you haven't even seen a little bit?
Right.
You had to see something to say, I want more. And so a lot of times God is developing things in us and doing things because there's somebody else who said, I see what they're doing and I want to do more.
Yeah.
God, I just want to do more. I love what they did. I love what they have. I want to carry this thing on, but I don't want to minimize it. I want to, I want to up the ante on this thing because they were so great in it. Like, I don't want nobody to see me lesser. Because imagine going behind a leader who was excellent,
Mhm.
who followed God, who seen God, the hand of God move
Yeah.
mightily, and then you come and it's like, wah, wah, wah. We miss Elijah.
Literally.
You know, so it's like, I got to do more because he was great,
Right.
you know, and so I can see that, like,
Right.
that is amazing. That's a beautiful way to say, let God develop things to you, let God complete things out of you, because you may think it's for you, but it literally might be for somebody watching you.
Most
you
of the
know?
time, it is. You know, I
Most of the
believe.
times, there you go, right?
You know, God doesn't bless you with something that's just for you.
Yeah,
It's for
absolutely.
you to be a blessing unto somebody else.
Blessed to be a blessing.
for
Right. You know,
generations.
it's for generations. It's for
Yeah.
you know, that's
Right,
just
right.
that's just what it is. You know, that's why, you have the dreams that you have and the visions you have, the goals that you have. On the other end of those is someone else's blessing.
Yeah.
You know, it's
It
someone
should
else's.
be. That should be your heart.
So like and that's why you have to. That's why you have to, consult with God and
Yeah.
follow through and take those little steps and let it develop, because on the other end of it is literally somebody else's blessing.
Yeah.
And not only that, but if you don't, it's going to get done, because if God has a blessing for somebody, they're going to get that blessing, whether it's by you or whether it's by somebody else, but don't miss out on your blessing that's supposed to be tied to somebody else's blessing, because you're not being obedient to what you're called to do.
Yeah.
And so.
Yeah. Ooh, Lord.
Hallelujah.
This is why it's so important to walk in humility.
Yeah.
Like, does he just open something for me? Like, I'm telling you, the Lord is good. But like, we talked David and we talked Elijah and Elisha. I think about how Elijah and Elisha ended, where, Lord, give me a double portion. And Elisha got that as he served. And Elijah was reciprocal of Elisha serving him.
Yeah.
Then I think about David and Saul. David kills and goes to war or whatever, and the people are singing, Saul's killed his thousands and David's killed his tens of thousands. And so David's got a tenfold blessing over what Saul had, but Saul, instead of letting instead of accepting David's service with an humble heart and things like that, he turned into pride in his heart, and so an evil spirit came upon Saul. And so, remembering, like, when we're in places of influence, there should be somebody who's there to pick up that mantle when you're gone, or pick up that mantle when your time is up at this assignment, to maximize what you've already done. And so we can't let that person who's called to serve you in that aspect, we can't let that turn into a pride or hate in our heart, because you're disrupting your own life. Because at the end of the day, as much as Saul resisted it, Saul ended up dying by his own sword. But on the other end, Elijah ended up not even seeing death.
Yeah.
I'm telling you.
Wow, that's good.
Oh my gosh.
Wow, that's good.
It's so important we keep that humility as a leader.
For real. Yeah.
And that, all of that, like, just like going back to the question, when God tells us to do something, it's our honor, it's our service, it's our duty to do what he is asking of us. Like, not to say that the other things, and let's speak to this, not to say that the other things aren't things that God asked you to do, or things that God, didn't ask you to do. But if he did, ask God, how do you want me to handle this? And if he didn't, like, ask, is this more important? Like, is this going to provide for me? Is this going to keep me? Is this going to protect me more than what God has asked me to do? Because right now, and I'll speak from my instance, like leaving my job, leaving my provision, leaving my protection, leaving my comfort, because I relied on that more than God. Let me just tell the truth. And walking from that to say, God, you know what? I'm going to chase after what you asked.
Yeah.
I have no idea.
Jesus.
I literally had no idea. When I quit my job, I did not have that internship. I didn't have any idea. When I tell you God has kept me since, like, the provision that I experienced, like, supernaturally, I can't even begin to explain it to you. So it's like, when God is asking you to do something, you got to say, okay, God, I'm going to chase after this. you know, and then look at the other things you're doing. Like, God, are you asking me to do this? How does this align up? Because God is not doing something outside of himself. So God, how does these things that you ask me to do align up to this thing that you're asking me to do? Because you're requiring both of these things of me. So how are you equipping me? How do I see myself fit to do these things? And then God, if these things aren't, God, please remove these distractions from me.
Yeah.
God, these things I see as my need, and forgive me for seeing this as my need, but help me to believe that as I follow you, that you're going to provide for me exactly what I need. Remove from me any distractions that come to confuse me.
Yeah.
Come to keep me from the things that you have asked me to do and complete, because God's going to do that thing out of you. But let me tell you, if God don't do it out of you, he'll do it out of somebody else. And I don't know about you, but I never, I've experienced this feeling again. I've seen it with my own two eyes. I never want to go through this feeling again of God asking me to do something and then seeing somebody else do it because I wasn't faithful to that thing.
Yeah.
You know, I didn't chase after it. I didn't follow through. I did not believe hard enough. You know, that was a feeling for me. God showed me that feeling firsthand. I was working at T-Mobile. And God told me to pay for this lady phone. $12, y'all.
Yeah.
Maybe even $25. God told me to pay for this lady phone. And I had just started this job, and I wasn't trying to get in trouble. I wasn't know if that was protocol or what, but God told me. I knew in my spirit, God told me. And I'm like beating around the bush, my heart beating fast, like, I can't do this. I don't want to get in trouble. I don't want it to look fishy. My manager asked me to go to help another customer. And next thing I know, I see the lady walk out with the bag. And I asked him what happened. He had paid for her phone.
Wow. Wow.
In my face. God showed me what you won't do, I will have someone else do, because my will be done. And so that if that doesn't cause you to chase after what God is asking you more than what is more pleasurable, what is more pleasing, what is easier. Sometimes it's like, this is the easier thing to do. It's easier to wake up and go to this 8 to 5, clock in, do the tasks that they're asking of me, and clock out, get my paycheck at the end of the week, when God is saying, you know, go here. Just follow me. I'll let you know when you get there. You like, I'm clocking over here.
Yeah.
You know, it's so much easier. And sometimes you got to get out of that, you know, because the unexpected, it can be hard.
Yeah.
Or, you know, sometimes you can think like, is this really you? Even ask God that, like, why? I want to answer that question is, what is keeping you from completing what God is asking you to do?
That's good.
You know, what is it keeping your eyes at saying like, okay, I'm going to do something else? You know, what is it? You know, is it something else that God is asking you to do, or is it comfort, or what is it? You know, and you have to ask yourself these things. We spoke to a lot of things, but at the end of the day, when it comes to completing what God has asked you to do and waiting, that's between you and God. There's no right answer, because the things that God did for Elijah and Elisha during different times and seasons in their life was, you know, maybe it was like a long period, or like Kemen said, it was like a developmental period, or like, you know, it was like the whole life period. So you have to ask God for yourself. God, is this something that I'm carrying with me? Is this a mantle that's on my life that no matter what room I walk in, I have to walk in this calling and it's never finished until the day I leave this earth? Or is this something that, you know, there's a time step on? And if there's a time step on it, Father, order my steps so that nothing is distracting me and keeping me from the set time that you have for this place to be done. And that's what you have to do, so that you can see what God sees, you know, and you know, because we can't really answer that question for everybody, because, you know, how could we? God is God. There's no way I could put myself in the mind of God and say, this is a scenario for each and every person, you know. God dropped things in my spirit as a child that there was no way I could understand as a child that I'm seeing, and it's bringing back to remembrance. Like, I remember a dream. I remember this time in my life, like God showed me this, and I'm experiencing it now.
Come on.
You know, and so these are things that, you know, you have to do. This goes back to that prayer life. You have to spend time with God, sometimes travailing until you hear. I won't move until I hear from you, God.
Come on.
You know, it may look like I'm resting. It may look like I'm waiting, but I'm active in the promises that you have for me. I'm taking steps every single day because I know you're bringing about something out of me, you know. And so that is what I would respond to that. that question. It's so personal. I believe that God wants an individual relationship with each and every single one of us. That there's no possible way that it could all look the same. Like I don't believe my relationship with God looks exactly like the relationship that God has with Kemen or even Jayce.
Right.
You know, the things that God is doing in me and speaking to me may not be things that he's speaking to you guys.
Right.
You know, I know his word is true. I want that's what we all have. That's in common. His word is true, but the individualistic things that God is doing with each and us, each and one of us comes from our prayer life, and it comes from the time that we spend with God. And so if you're looking for some answers from God, if you're looking for God, what do you want me to do with these things? I encourage you to pray. I encourage you to spend time with God. I encourage you to meditate. I encourage you to write until you hear a word from God, because he reveals all things, you know.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Anybody else want to add? You want to add anything to that, Jayce?
Nah, I mean, I can't follow that.
I think that was good.
You know, that's good.
Yeah, this is...
I wasn't expecting this conversation.
No, not at all.
Great. That was great.
The Lord is good.
Yes, he is. What a flow.
And so I hope that you guys got something out of what we talked about today. Like I'm telling you, I'm telling you, there was some gems dropped right there by the Holy Spirit today. So like, I don't know what you need to do to make sure that those are things that you apply in your life or like check on your life, but like for real, do it, because those are life-changing like revelations that the Lord was speaking. And so we want to encourage you, you know, if you got a question or a topic or anything that you want to talk about, because our episode, like we said, are guided by what you send us. And today's episodes were guided by what you sent us. Now, to be honest, it kind of flowed because we didn't plan to go in there the way it happened. It just happened from our conversation about us talking about our life and our week, but that's how it happens.
It's so
like,
organic.
Send in what you want us to talk about. Send in some questions. Send in some topics, and we will make sure to respond. You can do that by leaving a comment on YouTube or sending us a DM or commenting on one of our posts on Instagram at the Dive Podcast. And like we asked, you know, if you enjoyed this episode, give us a like, leave a comment, leave a review if you're listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. And also do us a big favor. Share it with a friend, you know?
Yeah.
We want to reach people, and we believe that people need to hear what we're talking about here. So share it with a friend. Like literally text somebody, send them a link, be like, hey, this is a dope episode. This is a dope podcast. You should connect. You should check it out, because, like, literally, it's amazing. Yeah. So, anybody got anything else they want to add before we close this episode?
Just to kind of, you know, we're talking about Jesus, faith, and life here. Yeah. We're just regular people, believers of different walks in life, and we're just, you know, chatting it up. So, you know, these are our perspective. You know, like you said, comment. Let us know what you think. What are your thoughts? How do you feel? You know, we're talking with you. We're engaging with you. You're a part of this conversation with us. So
definitely. I just want to give a thanks to everybody that's, you know, again, that's reached out and show support and love for the podcast so far. You know, we really appreciate you, and, you know, just keep it up. You know, give us those reviews, share, like, all that good stuff. And I guess we'll see y'all.
Yeah, we'll see you guys soon. Peace. You can follow us on all the things. That's another piece, but we out of here. You know what I'm saying?
My bad.
Nah, but you can follow us all on social media. Kemen Dumas at Kemen Dumas.
Jayce.p.
Yep, that's it. Jayce.p.
Yep.
Purpose.desi.
And then you can follow the entire podcast at the Dive_podcast. Let's go. We can't wait for episode 3 and to hear your feedback from this episode. We'll see you guys soon.
Peace.